Right. I think we will make a start. It's exactly 2 o'clock. Uh, Morning to Canada and US. Good afternoon to UK and Kenya. And good evening to India. Welcome to Umesh Shah Presents Sunday Life and Learn Talks. Today's speaker is Aziz Velji, who will be talking about realigning the brain for conscious living. Before I talk about Aziz, make I would like to make a special I would like to say a special thank you to Narmeen Jamal for introducing Aziz to me. She has also helped me with sharing this and previous events in Canada. Aziz has a Master of Science in Chemical Engineering from University of Wales and an MBA from University of Alberta. He now resides in Canada. Aziz was in the construction field for many years before writing his book. His background encompasses specialized areas of study and continuing education in philosophy, psychology, meditation practices, quantum physics, brain enhancement, neuroscience, and lucid dreaming. He's the author of Calm Brain, Powerful Mind, Abolish Stress to Unleash Your True Potential. This book has got a 5-star rating on Amazon. I got my copy, Aziz, a few days ago, and I've already started reading it, and I'm actually eagerly waiting for it to be signed by you.
Thank you.
Aziz, without taking more time, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Umesh. And what I'll do is let me set up my PowerPoint, and then we can go from there. Thank you, Umesh. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know some people are joining from Australia, and many people from Canada have woken up early to join. And so thank you very much for being part of this webinar. So to begin, I think many of you have heard of the phrase that you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And they were usually talking about saying that older people can't learn new skills, or if someone has been doing something for a long time, it's hard to change. Or they would talk about the brain, saying that once the brain has changed to a certain level and developed, that's it. Then we end up with that brain for the rest of our lives. What neuroscience is now saying is that not only can you teach old dogs new tricks, but our brain is changing and reorganizing until the day we die. What this means is that our brain is plastic, and it changes with our thoughts and our experiences continuously. Unfortunately, what happens is for many people, our brains are on autopilot, meaning that it's changing unwittingly, or we are not aware of what's happening, or basically unintentionally it's changing. And it's in response to our conditioned thinking and other experiences. When I say conditioned thinking, it's simply the framework of our beliefs, attitudes, behaviors, and experiences that we have accumulated over the years. Uh, and so what I want to, so the purpose of this webinar is to show you that that we can take charge of the brain, that we can consciously change it, so that we can shape it the way we want it. But to do that, we need to take control of the brain. And so this is what the whole webinar is about. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to cover these items up here. Meet Your Brain, which is a 101 on brains. Very simply, I'll show you exactly how the brain is structured. Your brain on autopilot, the realities of stress, how stress is triggered, and how chronic stress affects not only the functioning of the brain, but it affects the structure. And when we are stressed or worried or anxious, we lose control of the brain. And what that means is we go on autopilot. That means we just respond to things rather than, we react to things rather than responding to it. And then we'll cover the conscious and creative brain. And when the brain is integrated and in sync, there is coherence, there is harmony, there is peace, there's creativity. When it's not, the default is a stressed mind, a wandering mind, and an unhappy mind. Okay. So let's start with Meet Your Brain. Imagine that you have decided to explore this attic in your room that you have not been in since you got the house. You open the door, you turn the light on, and what you see in front of you is an alligator and a lion facing each other, and a monkey swinging from place to place, from furniture to furniture, trying to avoid being caught by one of these two creatures. And there you are, watching this. What happens next will depend on what you do. These are the 4 subbrains in our head: the alligator or the reptilian brain, the lion or the old mammal brain, the monkey or the new brain, the new mammal, and the human brain. Each of these brains has a mind of its own. It's an intelligence of its own. And usually they're always working not in conjunction with everyone else, but they're doing things independently. So let me show you what the brain looks like, okay? If you hold out your hand like this, with the palm facing outside, tuck your thumb inside and fold your fingers on top. So this is your brain. This is how it sits in your head. This part, this fingertips touching the palm, is behind your forehead up here, okay? And this part is at the back. Let's open and see what exactly is inside, okay? This is the first brain that developed, the alligator brain, okay? So 400 million years old, and we share this brain with the reptiles, meaning alligators, snakes, lizards, and everyone else, and all the other reptiles, okay? 200 million years later, a new brain developed on top of it. It's called the emotional brain or the lion brain, okay? And that sits on top of the alligator brain. Again, we share this brain with the lion, we share the brain. We share both of these brains with these two, with the reptile as well as the lion. The third brain that developed was the conscious brain, and it developed in 2 stages. The first part is the monkey brain, and the later part is the human brain behind our forehead. Okay. Now, which of this brain is in charge of your head, inside your head, will determine how your life unfolds moment by moment or day by day. Okay. Each one of them, each each one of them will impact your mindset. So it depends on how you react or respond to everyone outside. Okay. Now, why is this important? It's important because we need to take charge of our brain anyway. Okay, because it's better that we change it the way we want it rather than it being changed without us knowing. But it's more important now with the pandemic, and the reason is because the world that we're going to re-enter as soon as things start opening up is completely different from the world that we left. Okay. Second thing, not only the world has changed, but we have changed. Now, some of us, with the time that we had in this last year and a half, spend time on reflection, on contemplation, on things like trying to figure out about themselves, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, etc. And some of us didn't have a chance to do anything, mainly because we may be out at the frontline workers, so we didn't get a chance to do anything. We're busy, or we have children who had to be looked after, and so we couldn't spend the time. Oh, okay. I don't know how that happened. But, no?
Sorry about that, Aziz. I don't know what happened there.
No worries, no worries. And the third thing is that many people didn't take this opportunity to do anything with themselves. Also, in this space of a year and a half or 2 years, we changed tremendously. That was the biggest change that we have undergone. Year and a half ago, we didn't even know, or few people knew about Zoom, about the Wi-Fi, about routers, everything else, about online learning. Now, most of us are experts at it. We will do it all the time, okay? So the question comes in, how did we learn? Did we learn because we wanted to? Because here was a challenge and we had to learn these new technologies and new things? Or did we fight against this change? Meaning, why do I have to do this? Why is it, I've got so many things to do. And so there was a resistance to change. All these things will matter when we re-enter the world, okay? So let's start with, oh, come on. I'm just closing this chat, is blocking the slides. Okay, so let's explore each of these brains, okay? So the first one is the alligator brain. This is the first one that came. It's the oldest, it's the simplest, and it's the most powerful, okay? It is subconscious, meaning that it just reacts based on the 5 senses. It can't think, okay? So it reacts instinctively and automatically. It's the home of our survival instincts. Something happens to us, we know exactly what we need to do. Automatic life functions, for example, our breathing, the blood circulation and everything else. Because if we had to take charge of our own breathing, I think we'll be dead by now, because we'd forget to breathe. Okay, so this is done automatically. And it's the home of our conditioning or pre-programming. Okay, it's the framework, as I mentioned earlier, of all the beliefs, the values, the attitudes, behaviors that we have learned over the years. And that's the home of it as well. It's motivated, the main purpose is to survive. So it's motivated by fear and desire and survival. So it's main thing is it will fight, it will it will feed, it will look for shelter, okay? It will flee, and the main thing is to procreate, okay? For its survival to continue. The next brain that developed was the lion brain, the emotional brain, or the limbic system, okay? It's the smallest brain. It is still subconscious, okay? It's the home of our emotions and the early warning system, the trigger for and it's called the amygdala. Okay, it's motivated by pleasure and pain. It moves away from pain and goes towards pleasure. And this is, I mean, I'm sure that we have all sometimes used this in our lives or in management. It's a carrot and stick approach to life. Or when we tell our children, eat the broccoli and then you can go out to play. So that's the kind of a motivation that the lion brain uses. Its purpose is emotional and social. So emotional, it provides the emotional content to our reptilian brain, which is got no feelings, no emotions. And it's social because of the family connections, the interconnections, the interrelationships. Okay? Children are born with functional and operational alligator and lion brains. So the first 5 to 6 years are spent in the subconscious realm. What does this mean? It means that for the first 5 or 6 years, all the information that comes into the child is one way from outside. Because it can't think, it just accepts everything that it gets from everyone around, from the parents, from the caregivers, and whoever is around. And because it doesn't have a conscious mind, a rational mind, it can't evaluate what it's getting. It just needs the information because it needs to start to crawl, walk, talk, everything in a short span of time. So the way it learns is by observing and by mirroring what it sees. And so it's fast accumulation. And it can't tell whether what it's picking up is good or bad. It can't do anything. It just accepts whatever it gets. So for example, something might be if the child sees a disconnect, for example, with the parent says one thing and does something else. The child just takes it in. It does not know whether it's right or wrong. It knows that this is how human beings relate to each other or behave. Okay. Or if you take your child to a store, and a 3-4-year-old child, and the child starts crying and wants a toy, and the first thing you tell the child is, sorry, you misbehaved, and so you can't get a toy, and you don't deserve it. Now a 3 or 4-year-old child has no concept of cause and effect. It doesn't know that I did this, so this is the result of it. Neither does it know what it means to have misbehaved, or what it means to you don't deserve it. All it means, all they do is they just take it in. It's like, for example, you give a child a name. So let's give the child a name Aziz. But that becomes the basket in which everything goes in, everything it learns over life. And 60 to 75% of what we use today in terms of behavior and everything else, or in how we look at life, comes from the first 5 to 6 years. Okay, and to see how this becomes a reality, it was Gandhi who said that from the beliefs, let's say the beliefs are here, from the beliefs become our thoughts. Thoughts become our actions. Our actions become thoughts become our words. Our words become our actions. Our actions become our habits. Our habits become our values. And these values, this is how we meet the world. This is our destiny. So whatever we learned when we were that young is what we're using today. And some of these things come and haunt us as we go through our own lives. Okay. So the next is the conscious brain. This brain on top up here. It's the largest, it's highly developed, and it's complex. And it's conscious. Conscious meaning that it's rational, it can think, it's got the language capacities and the capabilities. It has got 2 hemispheres, the right and the left, the right and the left. And it developed in stages. This is the first part that developed, the monkey brain. And then this fingertips touching the palm, this developed later. This is the human brain. So the monkey brain is the largest. It starts from here at the back all the way to just before the fingernails appear. It's conscious, so it's logical. It's got in other capacities. It's the home of the ego, the mind chatter, and the intellect. It's motivated by the ego and logical reasoning. Its purpose is intellectual. This is the human brain, the last to develop, but the most highly evolved. Okay, this is conscious. It's the home of our inner world when we are thinking, doing, and projecting memories, looking at memories, or projecting the imagination, and everything else. Attention, creativity, focus, insights, all come from there. Okay, it's motivated by true self. It's not motivated by the ego. It moves beyond the ego, and its purpose is to integrate the subbrains, make sure that they're all aligned. And once it's aligned, it makes us self-aware, and it moves us beyond the ego, and lifts us out of our survival living. The human brain, the human subbrain, is the last to develop, but the first to degenerate with prolonged stress in the later years of life. Now, it's last to develop because it starts developing around 6 years of age, but doesn't finish developing until mid-20s. And in some cases, it never does finish developing. Okay, that is why many times, teenagers get into the risky behavior because they have no concept of what risk is, because this brain has not fully developed in them yet. So they will go into some things, and we would call them crazy, but to them it's normal. And it's the first to degenerate with prolonged stress in later years. I'm sure that many of you, or some of you, might have noticed people around you, friends, family, and others, sometimes say and do things which are totally out of character. Okay, and you would never think, why would that person say something like this? Because as we age and with stress, this is the brain starts to go, and this is the one that gives us self-control, self-discipline. So once it starts to go, we just say what comes to our mind. It doesn't matter what it is, we just say it. Okay. So this is how the four brains sit in our, the four subbrains sit in our head. Okay. This is the alligator brain up here. On top of here is the lion brain. It's a cat there, but it's a lion brain. This is the monkey brain, the intellectual brain. And this is a self-aware brain. This is what makes us human. So when the brain is integrated and in sync, the self-aware brain takes us out of our everyday stressed survival living. It is the portal into a conscious and creative life. This is where everything starts. Okay? Your brain on autopilot. So, what is stress? Stress is mental anguish, that the things that trouble us. It's a disturbance of the mind, and it's caused by the mind chatter. It's a continuously restless and anxious, worrying, chattering mind. It begins with our response to a threat. It begins with our thoughts. Stress is not outside. It's within. We create the stress ourselves. Okay? So let's see, what do I mean by threats? So that threats are two kinds. So this is a real threat. It's external to us. A wild animal chasing us, you're walking the forest, suddenly we see this animal chasing us. Or someone threatening us, and running after us and threatening our lives. So that's a real stress. What's a perceived stress? Perceived stress is internal to us. We create this stress. Okay, it's not an external thing. The external thing is normal. It's our survival instincts. but this is what we create. Conditioned fear. So what do I mean by conditioned fear? For example, if you are outside in your backyard and having your lunch or barbecue, whatever, and suddenly you see a bee just going by you and just coming and checking you out. For some people, just the thought of the bee or even seeing the bee that's far away would start the stress reaction. They're going to get scared and they're going to start being jumpy and trying to avoid where get away from that bee. Yeah, this is something must have happened to them to create this fear, and the fear is real. They feel that fear, but it's conditioned by whatever has happened to them in their lives, the experiences. For some, they can just sit there, let the bee do its dance, come and smell and see that there's no pollen up here and just disappear again. Okay? Arguing with reality. Again, let's take the example of COVID. Okay? When the pandemic started, we were told that you can't go out. You have to stay at home, only for emergencies. Many people, in fact, all of us had a problem with that. Okay, but some said, okay, no. So a lot of people had problems with it and saying, why do I have to stay at home? How can I go out? I need to go out. I need to go and meet my friends. I need to go and do all this stuff. And they just couldn't stop arguing about it. Now, there are three things happening here. The reality is you can't go out except for emergencies. Okay, that's a fact. Thinking is the process, and thinking is just like speaking. It's an ability that we have. Just like words are the end result of speaking, thoughts are the end result of thinking. So it's our ability. The problem comes in is with our thoughts. Our thoughts don't want to believe that this is a fact and not accept the fact. It wants to argue with it. It wants to say, the government is this, whatever this, all these people are, whatever. Doesn't matter what the argument is. It gives them a chance to bring out all the things that are troubling them. Okay, so that's that argument with reality. Every time you argue with reality, every time you argue with facts, you're going to lose. Excuse me. Our habit of constant worry. Let me give you an example of my mother. My mother, I used to go and see my mother when she was in her 80s, and we'd be having lunch and talking about families, which normally would be the discussion or the conversation. And suddenly she would say to me, Aziz, last night I had a lot of pain. And I would say to her, and I was worried. I said, okay, do you want me to go and call the doctor, or what do you mean to do? I mean, is there a problem? She says, no. It was only last night I had a problem. Okay. Again, as we were eating and everything was fine, and she would say, last night was terrible. So I said, Mom, that was last night. Okay, but right now you're fine. She said, yes, absolutely. I'm okay. I'm good. And we chatted, laughed. Within another couple of moments, she just burst out crying. She was so emotional that she just couldn't stop crying. Okay, and she said the pain was so much I couldn't bear it. Now here is someone who is bringing the past, the things that have happened, into the now, into present, where we are having lunch. Right now she's fine, but last night's she brings yesterday's memories today. Okay, so that's one part of it. The second part is I used to take her for a walk along the corridor in the seniors building that she lived in, and she used to use a walker, and she used to be dragging her foot a bit, but she was walking, and we used to walk. And she would tell me, Aziz, I can't walk. And I would say to her, Mom, you're walking. She says, you don't understand. And she kind of put me off for a few times. Then one day I said, look, Mom, I need to understand this. What do you mean by you can't walk? She says, what's going to happen to me tomorrow when I can't walk. Or she's reading a newspaper and talking to me and explaining to me what's in the papers. And then she say, I can't read. But I said, Mom, you're reading. She says, yeah, what's going to happen to me tomorrow when I can't read, when I lose my eyesight? Now, when I tell this to people, the first thing that people tell me is, yes, but she's old. So these are things that, old people go through. No, we all go through this. Even young people go through this. Maybe the thoughts might be different, memories might be different, or the projections might be different. But we all go through this. But we don't realize it because we are so busy with life. So we're thinking about it, but because we're busy with life, it doesn't occur to us that that's exactly what we are doing. We're bringing the past and worrying about it, and then thinking about the future, something that hasn't happened yet, it's uncertain, but yet we bring all that and we worry about it and get stressed. Okay? So here is what I call the pendulum of worry, the voice in the head. And that's exactly what it does. It swings from the past, just glazes through the present and goes to the future. The past is the world of memories, regrets, missed opportunities, the guilt. The future is the world of anticipation, expectations, what if. Now, don't get me wrong. Memories and imagination are the most powerful things that we as humans have. So that's not the problem. The problem is how we misuse it. And that is what's creating the stress in our lives, okay? Present is the time where hardly anyone sticks around. So if you're walking and you see a gorgeous sunset, for that moment, it's an oh my God moment, and it stops you. The thoughts stop, you're completely present. Within a couple of moments, thoughts start streaming in. Oh yeah, but you got to do this, you got to do this, you have to rush home, you are busy. And so we miss that opportunity. But if you stayed with that present a little longer, spend time on it, then you will know what an oh my God moment is and how it affects you, because it will blow you away if you're able to stay longer. So what happens when we have a real threat? How does our brain react to this? So again, let's go back to our hand model. The first thing is the lion brain, because it's got the trigger, it trips the survival mechanism because it perceives a threat. The threat is real. Okay, something's chasing us. As soon as it does, as soon as it trips the survival mechanism, our human brain disengages. And the reason why it disengages is because with a real threat, you need to do something right away. And the thinking mind is not going to help you. You need our survival instincts, the ability to just run and get away from this threat. Okay, stress chemicals are released. The alligator brain goes on autopilot. It is on autopilot anyway, and it needs to outrun the threat. So what happens is, as soon as the stress chemicals are pumped into our bodies, in the system, all the energy, all the blood is pushed to our arms and legs because we need to run away. Okay, leaving our vital organs exposed in terms of no blood circulation goes there even in our brain, and that's why we have brain freezes many times. Okay, because the only option is we need to run. So it doesn't matter if you have a half-eaten sandwich in your stomach. Okay, it doesn't matter. You need to get away. Okay, when the threat is over, the system goes back to normal, and the human brain re-engages. These are the two middle fingers touching the palm of the hand, so it re-engages. Now let's see what happens when we have a perceived threat, the worrying threat, the anxiety. Again, the mind knows that worrying and anxiety is a problem for us. So again, it perceives it as a threat. It trips the survival mechanism. Again, the human brain disengages, stress chemicals are pumped in, and the alligator brain takes over to outrun. But there's nowhere to go. You can't outrun your worries. What do? Okay, and the monkey brain keeps amplifying and perpetuates the worry. So the worries that keep going, and you can't run out of it. You can't run away from it. Okay, so the system never goes back to normal because the worry is ongoing, and so more stress chemicals are pumped in. The stress chemicals are corrosive, and they're so powerful that they use them when in organ donation, for example. They would give stress hormones, stress chemicals to the recipient of the organ, so that his system does not reject the new organ coming into his body. Okay, so it's that powerful. Okay, and so what happens when we are stressed? The human brain remains disengaged. Okay, so this is what happens. It remains disengaged. So when we are stressed, we basically have lost control of our brain. Okay? And this is how most of us live our lives. Stress chemicals are released, the primitive brains take over, and we go into survival mode, ready to deal with any trouble, any threat. But the threat is internal. So we can't even run away from ourselves. Okay? So what happens when the primitive brains, the alligator, the lion, and the monkey brains are in control? Okay. The effect of the alligator brain. So this is what the alligator brain's characteristics are. So it lives in constant state of fear. So we live in constant state of fear, anxiety. We are hypersensitive to small things. Will stress us out, okay? Because we are always looking for trouble, we're always looking for problems, we're always looking for threats. We become selfish, we are manipulative and insensitive to the feelings of others. It's all about me. Now, it's interesting that they did a survey of some of the so-called successful CEOs, and they found that the characteristic that they all had was what they called the dark triad. Okay, selfishness, they were manipulative, and they were insensitive to the feelings of others, and that's what the studies showed that made them at the top of the how far they could go. Okay? It's a survival of the fittest mentality. I mean, we have heard many times, that says, this is the survival of the fittest mentality. The world, you have to be able to survive, and that you have to be fit. Everyone else doesn't matter. We are on autopilot, meaning we are unconscious of our actions. We just react to things. We don't have time to even respond. We are afraid of change, and so live in the same old world, same job, even the job that we don't like, but we are afraid to change because we're in the survival. We need to survive because it's all about me. Okay, and when I say all about me, it's all about me. It's all about my family, people near me. My people, my friends, or people who are like me, my country. So that's the way the circle is, okay? The way it moves out, but it's all about me and yeah, me. Okay? What does the lion brain bring in? The system never matures. So for example, the limbic system, the emotional brain, this system never matures until the day we die. It is exactly the way it is when we were born. So what this means is that when you see a toddler having a tantrum, many times adults do the same thing, but a bit more refined, but we get into that stage. Okay, these are the emotional buttons people push to get us going. And let me give an example here. When my daughter was quite young, she knew exactly which of my buttons to push to get me going. Okay. Years later, she told me, "Dad, you were too easy." She could never do that to her mother. Okay. And amygdala hijack is a name given to our reaction, which is out of proportion to the perceived threat. So when you react, we overreact to things. That's what is called amygdala hijack, because the amygdala has hijacked your thinking brain. Okay, So it's overpowered it. We are driven by pain and pleasure. So of course we move away from pain, then we move towards pleasure. Stress makes amygdala larger and more sensitive. So the smallest thing will make you anxious. Things that you've done hundreds of times before, without even thinking and saying, yeah, this is something I can do. Now, even that small thing becomes difficult for you. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? And you start to question your own on your thought process, or you start to question whether this is the right way or not, which you've done thousands of times and you're okay. This is what the monkey brain brings to the table. It's motivated by the ego. So everything that we do is everything that we do for ourselves, and it's ego related. Okay. The mind chatter amplifies and perpetuates the perceived threat. Continuous worrying. We're always worrying about, we could have, should have, and then what we'll do. It's an ongoing thing. Thoughts are again of self-pity, me, self-importance. There's no one like me, and self-sabotage, which means you're coming near to succeeding, trying to do something, and you sabotage yourself, saying, I don't deserve it. Remember the one I talked about earlier? I don't deserve it. Those kind of things start to play in our heads as we get older. The intellect is under the influence of the ego. Now, here I'll give you an example of the recent example of the two billionaires who just went to space. Amazing work they've done. They've done so much. They're so intelligent people. At the end of the day, they wanted to find out who was going to be first and how far in the space that they were going to be. It's all about ego, okay? Not about everyone else. It's all about me. And of course, that has made what Amazon is today and Virgin Airlines is today. But it's all about me. That's how when the intellect is controlled by the ego. Okay, I mean, we do brilliant things, but it's all about me. I'm not thinking about you. So the self-aware brain now, when it's not engaged, so these are the things that we just talked about. It's all about me. We have a wandering mind and a lack of attention. We can't pay attention to anything. It's all automatic. We disengage from life. It's the same old. I ask you, how are you doing? Same old. How's family? Same old. How is work? Same old. We never seem to be able to get out of that cycle. The brain has a negative bias. And and I'll talk more about it a bit later on the negative bias. But because of the survival, all it looks for is negative information, or threats. It's always looking for something that is going to impact it, and so it's always looking for negative things. Stress and the resulting anxiety, burnout, fear, insomnia. All these are the results of stress. Of course, the stress chemicals play havoc on the physical in our bodies, hypertension, asthma, and other issues. So as Joe Dispenza said, as a neuroscientist, living in stress is living in a primitive state of survival, common to most species. When we live in survival, we limit our evolution because the chemicals of stress will always drive our big thinking brain to act equal to its chemical substress. In fact, we become more animal-like and less divine. Okay? The conscious and the creative brain. So how can we re-engage the prefrontal cortex, the human brain? So if you indulge me for a couple of moments, you can either close your eyes or you can just lower them and just focus on your breath. Just focus as it goes in and out. Don't do anything to the breath right now. Just notice it. Now, go deeper. Take a deeper breath. In and out. Do it a few times. Feel yourself sinking to the belly. Go even deeper. That's it. That's all you need. A couple of minutes of conscious breath and you have re-engaged the brain. Just like that. That's how powerful conscious breath is. Okay. The problem is we cannot maintain this state for long. Okay, and we go back to the survival level. And that's why we need to do more work on it. And I'll show you, I'll leave you with about 3 things that you can start working on, and the other things that we can talk about in the future if we get a chance. So the conscious breath, what does it do? It re-engages the prefrontal cortex right away. All the neurons start firing together and they wire together very fast. Yeah? It drops us into the present moment where there's no stress. Okay? And when it drops us into the present moment, our internal reference point shifts from the ego to the true self, because when you go into the present moment, you're going into awareness. Okay? And awareness is our true self. Okay? So it just drops you into it. So the present moment is that powerful. It will allow us to pause and choose how we respond rather than react to what's going on. It just gives us that moment, just a few seconds, so that we can respond rather than just react. Yeah? So a conscious brain, the brain is wholly integrated and in sync when it's integrated horizontally. Our left and right are integrated, and vertically, with all the brains in sync and in harmony. Okay, the self-aware brain is in charge of the alligator brain. We see the fingertips are touching the palm, so it's in charge. It's in control of the alligator brain, the lion brain, and the monkey brain. So the self-aware brain is in control and in sync. This is what the conscious brain is. Okay, this is where we need to get to. So when the brain is under our control, we're living in creativity. What does that mean? We become present and aware. Okay, and we overcome the autopilot syndrome. So we don't react to things anymore. We don't we don't have our unconscious way of doing things. Okay, we become resilient. We can master peak levels of stress and regroup very fast. That's all what, once you're in control, that's what you can do. We become mentally agile. So we can navigate, negotiate through any uncertainty. Doesn't matter what it is, what comes at us, because we are able to move back and forth. Okay? And so we take things in our stride. We overcome fear, anxieties, and worries. Okay? Because all of a sudden the brain is calm and is alert. Okay? And when the brain is in the present moment, there is no fear, there is no anxiety, there's no worries. We cultivate peace of mind by developing calmness and clear-sightedness. Okay? Of course, we reduce the mind chatter. Okay? It decreases. It may reach a point where it will go completely, but that's not important right now. It will reduce the mind chatter quite a bit. We become intelligent about our emotions. We know how to work with our emotions and not just get angry without knowing what to do. Okay. So some facts about the thoughts. So now, having heard what I've been talking about, nothing happens by chance. We create everything depending on our mindset. Up to now, we've been doing it unconsciously. Okay, we have not been in charge of our brain, but now we can take charge. Okay, a thought becomes active when we pay attention to it. So we have a choice. There are thousands of thoughts that go through our head every single day. Some studies have shown about 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Yeah. So it depends on which. I mean, of course, you can't focus on all those, but if you can pick and choose what thought you want. Okay, and that's important because the thoughts that occupy our minds are molding our destiny, consciously or unconsciously. So might as well take charge of your brain and do it consciously. Okay, and how do you do it? Intention. By intention is focused thought. It's power to change whatever you want. And I'm sure that you have come across, I mean, you have used intention many times before, whenever you wanted to get something done, and you've done it. But the problem is the mind chatter diffuses this energy. And especially, I think, if many of you will recall or remember, every time we make New Year's resolution, today we want to do this thing, we want to get rid of this, whatever the problem is. And so we gung-ho about it, and a little while later, something else bothers us, says, no, this is important, we need to get rid of this one. And before you know it, the intention is scattered. Okay, it's all the energy is gone from it. And most thoughts are of self-pity that I talked about, self-importance and self-sabotage. 70 to 80% of our thoughts are recycled. Okay, so only 15 to 20% are the thoughts that we need to pay attention to. Okay, and these thoughts are about reminders of what we need to do or something else. But these are the ones that now you can pick and choose. It's just like a light switch, you know, just the way you turn the light on by turning the switch on. Same way, you turn your thought on by paying attention to it. Okay, attention is your light switch. Okay, so if you pay attention to it, it becomes real to you. Okay? So I'll leave you with 3 simple practices, okay, that you can start working on. A beginner's mind. Now, let me explain what a beginner's mind is, and I'll tell you why it's so important. More so now than any time in our lives, okay? I mean, it's been important every time, but more now. So when I used to work some years ago, I used to get an email from someone, and there was a tag at the bottom, a quote saying that the mind is like a parachute. It works best when it is open. An open mind is not a beginner's mind. An open mind says, I know whatever I know. Now, you tell me whatever you have to tell me, and then I'll decide whether that's something that I agree or not agree, okay? But a beginner's mind says, I don't know. And it begins from there. I don't know. Now, another analogy, this Zen professor who was very well known in the Western world, one day decided to go and see a Zen master and see if there was anything else that he needed to understand. When he came into the house, the Zen master's house, he just started talking about all his work and the things that he'd been doing about Zen. And the master just looked at him for a few minutes, then ordered some tea. And so the professor took his cup, the master was pouring the tea, and the professor kept talking about his experiences and everything else. And the master kept pouring tea, and the tea started overflowing. And the professor says, what are you doing? You know, the cup is overflowing. So Zen says, that's exactly what you are. How can I even talk to you about anything when your mind is so full of the stuff that you come here with? To understand something, we got to go back to the beginner's mind. Okay? It doesn't mean you forget everything that you know. No. You start with the beginner's mind. Now what? What can I do now? All of a sudden, options open up. And this is more important now, as I said, because of the COVID, because of our experiences. We're going to go back to a world that is different. So how do you interact with the world? Okay, you can't go back and say, oh yeah, I missed this, and this was so good, and no, it's all gone. Start with the beginner's mind. See what is there and work with it and move with it. And you will see that stress will drop. Okay. The second thing is a simple thing called stop, but it's the most powerful thing that I've come across. And the more I think about it, the more I get excited about it. And that is because, let's say, let me tell you what the stop stands for. Okay. So the S stands for stop. T, take a deep breath, few breaths. O means to observe, and P is to proceed. Do it every time during the day. Doesn't matter what time. Every few minutes you remember it, just do it, stop. So what that does is, You might be on your autopilot, and all of a sudden you stop. That's it. You're putting a stop to the autopilot. You bring yourself to the present moment. As soon as you do that, you're in the present moment. Now, take a few deep breaths. Now you're going deeper into the present moment, into the awareness. Okay? You have stopped the conditioning. Okay? Now you observe. How's your mind? How's your body? How does it feel? Okay? And if it's still tense or if it's still upset, take a few more deep breaths. Okay? And you settle down into that quiet spot, the awareness. Now you proceed. Now you do the same thing that you were doing or change course. But now you're going from within, from the awareness, not from the ego, not from the automatic way of doing things. Now you can decide what you want to do, how you want to do, whether it's worth doing or not. Okay? And the last one is what I call touch point of sanity check. Now, earlier on, I mentioned to you about all of a sudden you come across this a sunset and you watch. Now, there are many experiences like that we have during the day. We might be playing with our dog and we're just totally there and feeling good about it. Or we might be playing with our children. We're interacting with someone. Okay, we're watching a sunset. Doesn't matter what it is. All these things are there. The way I look at it is it gives us sanity in this insane world sometimes, with stressed out world. Okay, it brings some sanity. The problem is that we don't tend to remember this. We don't tend to enjoy them. We just, for a moment, we say, oh, wow, what a gorgeous sunset. It brings relief to us. Before we know it, the relief is gone. The pendulum has started swinging. Okay. So there is a saying again in neuroscience which says it's called it's an effect. It's called Velcro and Teflon effect. What neuroscience says is that the brain is Velcro for negative experiences and thoughts and everything else. It sticks to the brain, and it's this Teflon for positive experiences. Positive experiences come and they bounce away, okay, without even realizing it. What I would suggest that you do is switch them around, okay? Make it Teflon for negative experiences and Velcro for positive experiences. So when I say negative, this means they don't look at news or whatever, but it should not stay in your head, okay? Negative thoughts might be like, I'm not good, or insecurities, whatever it is. Just let them go. Okay? Don't let them stick. Make it like a Teflon. Positive experiences, on the other hand, the sunset, stay with it. Experience it a bit more. Okay? Or when you're playing with your child, just be there. Don't rush. Don't go and get away from that and experience it. When you're laughing, laughter, it's so amazing. Okay? Spend time in it, laugh more. Okay, this is, in fact, laughter. It's not the time to talk right now, but what they have found that laughter has the same effect on the brain as meditation has, and that's something that we can talk about in the future if we get time. Okay, so these are the three things I want you to kind of keep in mind and start doing them just on a regular basis, and and see where it takes you. If you want more information, here's my email, here's my website, and I'll open it up for Q&A. Umesh?
Thanks a lot, Aziz. That was excellent. No questions at the moment. I have one question actually, Aziz. So, in terms of controlling thoughts, a lot of thoughts come into your mind, and the use of willpower. So, how do you? What's your view on controlling the thoughts using willpower?
So, number one, the first thing is you can't control your thoughts. And the harder you try, the worse it gets. Okay? The worse your mind chatter gets. Now, there are some people who try and use willpower. And some have succeeded. They've used, and willpower is from your rational mind, your left brain. okay? And you're using that to try and control your thoughts. They have used it, and they've disciplined them so much that they've lost interest in life completely. They've become so serious in watching each and every thought, but that's not the way to go. The way to start working with the thought is by observing the thoughts. The thing is, we haven't observed our thoughts. We have never looked at what's going on in our head. So just sit quietly and close your eyes and let the thoughts, a stream of thoughts, just flow in front of you, and just watch, see what's going on. And once you start doing that, see, right now we think that the thoughts are just flowing continuously in our head. As you start watching them, you begin to realize that it's not a continuous stream. One thought comes, or the stream of a few thoughts come together, it stops, and another chain starts, another thought starts. You keep watching more and more, you'll begin to get the space in between. That's how you can calm your brain down, slow down the thoughts. Okay.
Thank you, Aziz. I've got a question from Jim Papas. How can we stay in the present moment as long as possible, rather than swinging back and forth between the future and past thoughts?
Okay. So two things. Again, how can you be in the present? Simple thing, conscious breath. As soon as you're conscious of your breath, you're in the present moment. Okay. The thing is, don't try and force yourself to remain in that in the space of the present moment. Why? Because you're forcing yourself to stay. It's better to lose that present moment and come back to it over and over again. And then the awareness will expand. You'll be able to stay there longer. Okay? But don't force, again, it becomes when you try and force yourself to stay in the present moment, it's the willpower that you're using. And you don't need, in this work, you don't need willpower. You don't need effort. All you need to do is just observe and conscious breath. Okay?
Thank you, Aziz. There's another. Okay, somebody wants to know, can you please repeat the three things that we should do?
Sure. So the first thing is the beginner's mind. Okay? So beginner's mind is an unknown mind. I don't know. That's the approach. In fact, this is the approach that we need to take with everything. Even when you're working or talking to your child, just start. Don't assume that you know what the child is going to talk about. I don't know. Then you will begin to see and hear and much more than what you would normally do. Okay, so it's a beginner's mind. The second one is about stop. Just the word stop, to use that continuously through the day. Every time you remember, put it on your watch, on your smartphone, wherever, let it remind you. Because what it will do is, it will break the continuity of the autopilot. Stop is you stop. T is you take a few deep breaths. O is to observe how you're feeling, how your body is. And if you need to take a few more breaths to kind of bring yourself down a bit, if you're too anxious. And P is to proceed. It makes it easy for you. Okay? So, and the third thing is the touch point of sanity. It's just change the Velcro and Teflon effect other way around, meaning that make the Teflon your Teflon for your negative thoughts. Whatever thoughts come which are negative, you feel from the news, or your own thoughts which are negative about, this is wrong, this is whatever, let it bounce off. Don't hold on to them. Let them go. Whilst positive experiences, happy experiences, laughter, make it a Velcro. Let it stick to you. And the more you do it, the more you will get those moments. Okay? You become much more responsive to it. That's the beauty about it. Okay?
I really like this Velcro and Teflon effect analogy, and yeah, definitely. I've got someone else who's asking, how can we spread this message to others in a very simple way?
Just like what we are doing up here. Okay, it's just showing is how I think many people, I think a lot of people, two things. One is there are a lot of people who don't want to know this stuff. Okay, and there are other people who are ready for it, who want to. So the idea is not to just go and talk to everyone, because people are just going to shut you down. Okay, it's like when I first began to understand and so to see the positive effect on my life, I wanted to climb onto the roof and say to people, it's so easy. No, I mean, I can show you. Pretty soon I got the message, you're crazy. This thing doesn't work. And please, don't bother me. So I stopped. And then what I did was exactly what I'm doing. I'm talking to like-minded people. I'm talking to people who may not be aware of all these things, but what happens is when they hear this, it would stay in their brains, in their minds, and they may start thinking about it, or they might see a book in a bookstore one of these days, or mindfulness, and say, you know what, let me pick it up. So that's how it also works. But the thing is, this is a good forum, and this is the way we can spread the message as much as we can.
Absolutely. Uh, okay, Aziz, the next question is from Vinay. Um, he's asking, what is the difference between willpower and discipline?
Willpower and discipline are the same things because they are very rational. Okay, they come from the rational side of our mind. So we discipline ourselves and we use willpower. Okay, and that willpower is the ego willpower. Okay, so that's, both of them are the same, but they come from the ego side of it. When we are working on ourselves, we don't need willpower. We don't need discipline. This work that we are doing is a lot of fun, and we have to enjoy it and take it as it comes. Okay, and flow with it, because with willpower you won't be able to do that. For example, the rational mind can take you to the moon. It can work out the trajectory to the T. You can drop that rocket right to where it wants. But the rational mind can't solve the problem of stress. Yes, you can come up with all these medications. You take the medications, but it can't understand stress. Okay, and so what people tell us, the doctors or the healthcare providers tell us, yes, too much stress is bad for you. We know that, but it affects the body. But a little bit of stress is good for you. They don't tell, first of all, how much a little bit is good for you. But they're saying, on the other hand, that, yes, stress is going to kill you. A little bit of stress will kill you slowly. Okay? I'm not saying that our lives are not, that there's no stress in life. Of course there is. It's how fast we recover. If you have a couple of minutes, I can give you an experiment that someone has done. You have a couple of minutes?
Yes, I think it will be useful.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. So this is the experiment that they've done. And what they did was they took people from the street who had never done meditation before, didn't know meditation. And they took another group which had practiced meditation, which were familiar with it. And they devised a small experiment. And the experiment was, they put a small plate on the wrist up here, and through which they passed hot water. Hot enough to give you a sting, but not to burn you. Okay? And they explained this to the two groups. And what they said is, we'll give you 10 seconds of warning that we're going to run the water through, 10 seconds of water going through, and then 10 seconds for recovery period. Okay? So this is what they found was, when they gave the warning, both the groups of people, the group of people who had never done meditation, their stress level went up because they had electrodes on the head and everything else. So it went up. But and when they ran the water for 10 seconds, it stayed high. And when during the recovery period, it still stayed high. So beginning, when they knew that this was going to come, they were stressed. They stayed stressed, and then they remained stressed after the 10 seconds. with a group which had practiced meditation, with the 10 seconds warning, they were not stressed. It was normal brain waves. When the hot water went through the hot water touched their wrist, the plate, they were stressed. And then after in the recovery period, they came down back to their normal. This is the beauty of what we can do with meditation, okay, and how we can basically become resilient, so we can recover from stress fast. So stress is there. It's how fast you can recover, because in life there is no such thing as work-life balance. I mean, we've been chasing something which doesn't work. We try to balance all these things at 20% here, 5%, whatever. It just doesn't work. It's how resilient you are, how you can move, how agile are you are to move between things, from your work to your family to your hobbies or whatever it is you do, pastimes. Okay? Is to make you more agile.
That's really interesting. So true. Got another question. What is after the beginner's mind, and what power would it have?
Sorry? So, okay.
What is after the beginner's mind, and what power would it have?
So the beginner's mind, the power comes in with the beginner's mind. It drops you into the present moment. So, for example, in a very simple way, if I've been fired from a job, okay, all I'm thinking about is the boss didn't like me and all the sorts of things that have happened to make me lose my job, and I'm caught up in that. If I stop all that and say, okay, now what do I do? Forget about everything. This is the beginner's mind. As soon as you say that, your connections start to come to you. You all of a sudden start to remember, or you say, okay, now I need to do this. I need to do this. It gives you the space. Okay, so that's the power of beginner's mind. It's not that you forget about what you know, but it brings you to a stage where all of a sudden you're open to learning. It's like we just talked about that children, when they're born, they're in subconscious mode and they're just learning. That's the fastest time that they're learning, okay? And that's what happens to us. When you're in beginner's mind, the amount of things that you learn, because you're all of a sudden, you're attentive to everything going on around you. Okay? And that's powerful, because we are not attentive. I mean, most of the time we are lost in our mind chatter.
Okay. Aziz, we've got a few more questions, and I'll read them out if we can,
Sure.
if it's okay with you.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, next question is: there are times when and I think this has happened with everybody. There are times when I go to a room to get something, but once I get to that room, I've forgotten what I actually came for. How can you make the brain? How can you make the brain active to deal with that?
By paying attention. And what do I mean? I know what you're talking about. Excuse me. It's not only when you go to another room. Sometimes you want to do something and you forget what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Or you've done something and you've forgotten and you're trying to figure out, did I do that? Okay. So what I do is I pay attention to everything that I do. Everything, I'm trying to be as attentive as possible. Of course, you can't be attentive all the time, but as much as attention as possible. So when you go into the next room, when you you already know why you want to go to the next room. So you're already attentive. So when you go to the next room, it stays with you. But what the problem is, as soon as we know why we want to go there, but in the process of going there, the mind chatter has taken over. So by the time you come there, you say, oops, what was it about? But if you're attentive, it carries. See, if you are present in this moment, there is no reason why you can't be present in the next moment and the next moment. Okay? But what happens is you're present now, and the next moment you lost it. And that's because the mind chatter takes over. But if you are attentive, again, not by force, it's okay to lose it, but to come back to it over and over again. And that's how we make the attention strong. or focus strong. One of the things that has happened now, I mean, we all know that, is all these social media, smartphones, everything else. It only needs very short attention spans, and they're taking away attention every which way they can. Okay, we have lost. They think they probably value our attention more than we do. Okay, and they are trying everything possible to get you to attend to what they are doing. Okay, I mean, to the point where saying, okay, it's someone's birthday today, why don't you greet them? What do you want to do for this thing? What do you want to do this? Always telling you what to think, when to think, and how to think. So we're losing that. But we need to work with attention, and this is something else we can talk about in the future sessions if we do that. I'll give you some ways of how you can start to strengthen the attention.
That'll be really good. So there's another question. So there are times when you're having a conversation, you want to say something. There are words which you are inside your mouth, which you want to talk about, but it just doesn't flow through. The words doesn't come out as what you would want it to come out. How would you control that? How would you help with that?
Again, don't try and control anything, because you're just trying to force something. The reason why is because you want to say something, but your mind is somewhere else, is dragging you away. That's what it is. Because if I'm talking to you right now, and right now I'm talking to you, you are my focus. That's it. I'm not. The focus is not elsewhere. I'm not thinking of oh, I should go get a coffee, or I've got a dental appointment. Nothing. My focus is entirely upon you, and that does a number of things, because when you are there, then you're not thinking of what am I going to say. Then you know what to say exactly. Because sometimes we say, if Umesh says this, I'm going to say this, and if he says I'm going to say this, and we try to figure out what you're going to say. So I try and come up with an answer. No, I just wait, completely there. And when you say something, I listen to what you're saying and I respond to it. It's not it's something that I've thought about. If Umesh asks me this question, I'm going to say this thing. No, whatever you say is what I respond to.
It's not like a game of chess, is it, where you kind of start preempting
Exactly.
your moves?
Because see, when if you talk the way we are talking about right now, then no one has to become defensive. The problem is that when we are defensive, if I'm talking to you, all of a sudden are defensive because you don't know what I want from you. You always want something from me. Okay, and well, that's. But if I'm here, I don't want anything from you. I'm at this level, you are at this level. Communication becomes easier, it becomes open. We listen more, we're more attentive.
True. Got another question. The question is, and this is from Deepu. The question is how to control pain, since I suffer with nerve pain. No medication helps. So how would I control pain?
I think, see, to control the problem is that yes, there's a physical pain, and it can be really a lot, too much sometimes. But I think what we need to do is we need to disconnect it from the emotional pain. Okay, because and what do I mean by that? So now, if I'm suffering, in my mind, if I have a pain, for example, in my leg, okay, and all the time I'm thinking about, oh me, how am I going to do this, and it's so much pain. Then you're now creating a second layer of pain, the emotional pain. There's a physical pain, and it's not easy to disconnect. I mean, we all go through that, and it's very difficult. But with practice, if you can just let go of the pain in your head, the physical pain is there. Okay, sometimes it's the emotional pain which creates more pain for you than the physical pain itself. I'm not saying it's not there. Of course, it's there, but the emotional pain really creates a lot of troubles for you. So you need to try and let go. It's not easy. It takes time with things like being mindful, meditation, those kind of, to bring yourself at a stage where you're totally aware, and just work with it. Again, I'm saying it, but it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think when someone's going through that
Yeah.
physical pain, I think nothing seems to have worked.
No,
Now
no,
that
and
you can do everything, but
yes,
nothing seems to work.
yeah.
I totally understand. So I've got one more question, and it's quite interesting actually. So, how important is it to disconnect from social media in order to settle the mind?
You know, this is difficult because it's very hard to disconnect. I mean, um, I had tried, and I still do it, and I turn off my notifications and everything else. So it's good to experiment and see what you can do without the social media. But also, I mean, social media, we need the smartphones and social media and all that, but we need to be able to discipline ourselves in terms of trying to use how much to use. We probably put in a certain time during the day or whatever. But so yes, if you can do it for a couple of days and see what the result comes in, and then you decide how much of this social media you will get involved with, because social media is never ending. It's the way I look at it is you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and it just keeps going. That's exactly the way it is. And it's interesting that I mean all these social media platforms like even Facebook knows when a young person is feeling down, just based on the things that the young person is doing. And so to keep him down or to kind of try and keep him occupied, they give him some more because they now know that you are down. So they give you some more stuff to work with. You continuously caught up with Facebook, and that's how they catch and hold attention. Okay, but yeah, I mean it's not easy because we have got very deep into it. But if you can start to kind of break away from it, spend more time. Um, as a It was I think Carl Jung. He said it in 1930s, before even the supercomputers came in, before all the smartphones and Facebook and all that came in. And he said that he was noticing this thing that even with this technology that's coming up, he says we are losing ourselves. We're not being able to reconnect with ourselves. Something to that effect, not exact words, but that was what he was getting at. And that was in 1930, when even all the things we know today didn't even exist. And he was already concerned about it at that time. And today, a lot of people lead a superficial life because they can't go deep inside them. They don't have time to even work with themselves. Okay? So yes, if you can disconnect, fantastic. Disconnect for a while, see what it feels like, then go back, but go back in a way that as per what you want, not because right now LinkedIn and all those people are forcing you to do things, basically taking control of your mind, and you need to take back. You need to take charge of it.
True, very true. But Aziz, it can be very addictive, and
Really,
to take it away,
oh
it's like taking a toy away from a child.
yeah,
That's
yeah, but
exactly what it is, and it's
yeah, because it has become, and that's what the whole purpose was, to make it addictive. And, in fact, what these people in these platforms have begun to realize, all these people who created all these software to get our attention, are beginning to realize that their own children are having a problem. They are having a problem. So what they've done is they've set up separate schools in Seattle and those areas. All these executives of these big companies, they send the kids there where there are no smartphones, there are no laptops, some of the things, all gizmos are gone. You go to work. So they realize how addictive it has become. But we haven't, even though we know, but we have difficulty trying to disconnect.
isn't that interesting? That how they are thinking that way, but they are obviously at
Yes,
the. It's all commercial as well. They want to try and make money from the public, but for themselves, they want to try and give the best for their do the best for their children.
But you know, the other thing as well is a lot of this technology is created by people who are not married yet, single, no kids. They don't realize what it's going to do to them. It's
Mm.
just when they get married, they have children, suddenly realize, wow, this is what I'm creating. Because, you know, I read somewhere it says that we are not talking about controlling mind or whatever. We are talking about creating your mind for you. This is from one of the Google or some chief executive, ex-executive or whatever. It says we are working on trying to develop or create your mind for you. You know what that means? That means we have lost control.
Yes.
Okay, and now is the time to start taking back control, and it's important for us because our children are all most of them are occupied with this, and sometimes we forget and we just kind of carry on with it. But it's important to kind of start thinking about it.
Absolutely. One last question, and then we'll wrap it up. What would help clear a foggy mind? So, you know, the mind that has got too much in it, a foggy mind, what would help to clear it?
Again, it's and the result. It could be because of the mind chatter. It could be because of stress. Because when we are stressed, many times our brain freezes as well. Okay, because attention is not on the brain or the intellect or the working of the brain or the mind. It's working. It's trying to survive, and for survivals, you don't need all this thinking and everything else. You just need to survive. You know, you need to go whatever you need to do, or use the thinking just to survive. Okay, so the only thing I can suggest is to get into things like what you talked about. Start to re-engage your brain. As soon as you start to re-engage your brain, you're taking control of your brain. Now you work with your brain. Now you see what you need to do. Okay. Now you need to get into things like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, tai chi, whatever it is, to bring yourself into the present moment. Okay. Once that starts happening, then your mind starts to clear up because it becomes calm and alert. Okay. But you need to do that.
Thank you, Aziz. Aziz, can you put the slide which has your email address and your website as well?
Sure.
Somebody wants to take a note of that. There it is. If we can leave that, and I think
Sure.
we can probably. Yes, there aren't any more questions, so this brings us to the end of this presentation. Aziz, I'd like to say a big thank you to you. This was very, very interesting, very helpful, and really appreciate your time as well. This session has been recorded and it will go on my YouTube channel. The link has already been put on the chat. And if you go onto my website, umeshshahpresents.com, you'll find the link to the recording as well over there. Apart from that, thank you everyone for joining this afternoon, and hope to see you soon at